Welcome to the Urgency of Awareness podcast. I'm Jody Farr.
And I'm your girl, Nita Renee.
Join us as we gain new awareness of our personal experience
and the experiences of others.
You know it. So that together we can build our capacity, bring it into the relationships we have,
work lives,
yes, and the community.
Let's go.
Welcome, everybody. Oh my gosh, the awareness journey so that we can build capacity, does it or does it not bring up emotions, right? Whether it's happy emotions, sad, frustrated, angry. But as we're on this journey to build our capacity, emotions come up. So how do we process these emotions? How do we deal with it so that we can hold a space and build our capacity? Join us today and let's walk this together.
Now, Jody, you are not lying when you say that this provokes a whole bunch of emotions.
You know it.
I mean, I've been on this journey with you for a while, and man, I am so excited about today. I'm ready. I'm ready to get to it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Let's get to it.
There's a reason that this is our last episode of this season because we wanted to leave you with a big old tool that you can take and use in your love life, in your work relationships. But it's a tool. It's my favorite tool, one of my favorite tools, and I use it all the time.
But what I love about it is that we're using these tools to build capacity.
You know it.
Within ourselves,
yep,
our communities, and our institutions. And so I do believe that this is going to be one of those big tools that we leave them with.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I'm
this
excited.
tool we use all the time. So everybody, if you're a note taker, get ready. So when we have feelings, and again, it can be frustration. And I want to point out feelings, it doesn't matter if we're have a normalized dominant identity or a not normalized dominant identity.
Come on.
So normalized dominant identity, sometimes we get frustrated, angry, or deny, we're like, what? I didn't get no benefits, right? Yeah. And sometimes we're frustrated that we didn't know. I've talked about that. Like, oh man, I should have known about this other experience and I haven't.
Yes.
And if you're not part of the normalized dominant in one of your identities, there's feelings there too. Yes. Frustrated. Jody, I always have to adjust. People aren't even aware of how much I adjust. Yes. They're not even aware of my identity, So there's feelings. It doesn't matter if you're normalized dominant identity, not normalized dominant identity. So we have a 4-step tool that when you have feelings come about that we want to have you try on so that we're not taking action out of our feelings. Because we don't want to do that. Because 99% of the time, when we take action out of our feelings,
talk about it.
It's about us. It's about making ourselves feel better. So when I get frustrated, if I just blow up and I'm like, blah, 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 it's about making myself feel better. Or if I you feel guilty and I'm going to go help. I always say, leave the saving to Jesus or whoever is your God, right? But we want to go help right away. But ultimately, if we do that right away, it's about us and making our feelings better.
Come on.
So step number 1, here's the tool. Step number 1, we want to name the feeling. We want to name the feeling.
Now, Jody, you said that our identities that we hold can impact what we can feel. And if we can even feel it. So talk to me about that.
Exactly.
Help me understand.
Listen to Nita using information from other episodes on me. Right. So go back to all your, right now, if you got the book, page 34, 35, look at all the identities that you hold. And think about how those identities affect or have affected what you can even feel or what you can even name. So I talked about growing up in poverty. In poverty, you can really only have 2 feelings. I mean, obviously, audience, you can have more than that. But I'm saying you can have 2 feelings, primary 2 feelings, and stay safe. You can be happy and you can be angry.
One of the 2.
In the neighborhood, there's a lot of laughing. Woo, we make jokes about everything.
Everything.
And then there's a lot of yelling, like, you did not just say that to me, right? Say it again, right? Go ahead. So those 2. So I talked about, I think in another episode, I always say, I'm happy till I'm not. Because it's either or. You can be sad in poverty, but not too long because then you can become vulnerable. Yeah. And so there's just not a lot of this wide array of emotions that you see.
That were taught.
They were role modeled, that you see, that you even name. And so then think about casual. What if you grew up in casual English instead of formal? So I was working, and what made me think of this is I was working at a school. It was an upper middle class school. I was there, and an 8th grader come up to me, 8th grade girl, and she goes, today I am slightly depressed. Tomorrow I may be manic. And I was like this. I'm like, I'm looking around for help. Like, I don't even know what that means, girl. Like, I'm like, this happened like 10 years ago. I understand what it means now. But at the time, I'm like, oh, I'm a mandated reporter. I don't know. I might need to call somebody. I'm not exactly sure. So let me see. But the vocabulary in which she had, the words in which she had to express herself, and the understanding of those definitions, like, blew my mind that she could do that. So think about that triangle. Think about age. That's a big one.
Huge.
We talked about that in another episode. Is Gen X and older not always encouraged to have feelings?
Yes.
You know, if you're crying, I'll give you something to cry about. You know, we were constantly being role modeled that you're to be seen, but you are not to be heard. You know it, right?
Come on.
So some of my triangles have encouraged me not to be aware of my feelings. And therefore, if I'm not aware of them, I can't even process them. So for some of us listening right now, step one is like, seems so simple. Well, name the feeling. Like some of us are going, pada, that's easy. But you got to understand, for some of us with different identities, it's very hard.
We don't have the vocab.
Don't have the vocab. Don't even have the definitions, the knowledge. Like I'm still primary, like, I don't say slightly depressed or man. I'm just still, well, okay, you're sad, happy, mad. Like I got,
I got the four.
Yeah, I got like four primary feelings, and that's it. I go back to primary colors, primary feelings, but there's this array.
And it's funny because a lot of these kids do have a larger language around how they feel.
So, and it's amazing. I'm just like, wow. And the fact that, so step one, I just want, for those of us, it is a struggle, and just to name the feeling. And remember what we talked about the other episode is the more we're in touch with our body, then, because our body, when we feel something, our body sometimes shows up first before our thoughts, you know.
A lot of times your body will talk to you.
Right.
99.9% of the time, your body's talking to you.
Right, giving us some information. So the more we're aware of our body, we can hit the pause button. Ooh, I'm feeling something. Then I can think about, okay, what are my feelings? Like I literally have to check in with myself because I just, and it takes me a while to articulate it. So step one, name the feeling. Step two, affirm the feeling. So you want to say it's okay to have the feeling. So if my stomach flips and I hit the pause button, and so step one, I'm like trying to think about, okay, what am I feeling? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I am feeling anxious, you know? So then step two, once I name that feeling, just to say it's okay to feel anxious. Now again, step two, for some of us, depending on our identities and our experience of the societal system, we have to say step two several times because we have been taught it is not okay to have your feeling.
Yeah.
So this one, I have to do step two a minimum always at 3 times because the first time I say it, I'm like, I guess I am feeling anxious. And then I'm like, it's okay to feel anxious. You know, I'm like, I always say it sarcastically. The first time I'm always like,
jokes there, y'all.
Oh, well, yeah.
Everything goes to a joke.
And I don't think it's okay, you know? So then I take a deep breath and I'm like, no. It really is okay to feel anxious. And then I take a third breath. I'm like, yeah, I feel anxious. Like I'm accepting it. I have to tell you, after step two, a lot of it just dissipates right there. Like now, because a lot of times we're not allowing ourselves to feel the feeling and we're not giving ourselves permission to have it. So the minute our body, my stomach flips and I'm feeling something, I start fighting myself. I start going, oh, just push through it. Oh, who cares if my stomach flipped? I'm going to get this work done. Or, you know, so we're so busy not listening and not affirming that sometimes that only amps up the anxiousness that I'm feeling.
And I want to pause you there because a lot of times, not just the adults, I think the young people too, this part is like the work, right? And it is the hardest. So when you think about like when you first started, right? Because this is your work. You do this. You travel, teaching people how to do this. For those capacity builders out there, like what I think I need a little bit more on like, okay, it's my first time hearing you. Right. And I hear you and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. But like you said, like it takes you 3 times, even as of now, to be able to affirm yourself that you're feeling it and that it's okay. Right. So what were some of the things that you went through mentally and emotionally to get to where you are?
I think it's always about learning, becoming more aware, dare I say. It's always about learning about myself more, learning about others more, and then incorporating those tools.
But when did you do that? Was it before you went to work? Was it during your day? Was it after you got home? Like on a weekend after you finished? You know what I'm saying? Like,
girl,
right? Like
every day, all day, right? And it's moments. I think that's a great point, Nita. Is a journey. Like I love when people write books like, oh, in these 5 steps you can do that. Come on now, it ain't just 5 steps, or if it's those 5 steps, you've got to do it 500 million times. Right. You know, I mean, we want things to be quick, fast, and
that exactly. We're in that age for real,
and they're not. And audience, I think this is a big point, Nita, is we have to get used to being uncomfortable.
Say that again.
We have to get used to being uncomfortable
because we don't get that. Like we say it, we hear it, but
we don't.
We see in the world that around us in our own circles, we see that we're just saying it
right
a lot of times.
And normalized dominant, I think it might be because we're not adjusting. The more normalized dominant we are, the more we're often not used to being uncomfortable because things are, you know, as a right-handed person, things were geared towards me. You know, as able-bodied, things are geared towards me.
So why should I slow down?
Well, why do I slow down? And then I'm just not used to having to adjust or be uncomfortable. So the minute I did, like even my friend's condo, I'm like, no, I'm not going back. You know, the minute we get uncomfortable, but again, that's a feeling. So when we feel uncomfortable, can we name it? And can we say it's okay to feel uncomfortable? And so this tool then, I had to try several times, and I come from a place where this gets a little touchy-feely for where I come from. Right. You know what I mean? So there was no part of me when I started doing this that I was like, oh yeah, let's do this. I can't wait to process my feelings. Oh my gosh, no. Like, but I was uncomfortable. I didn't like it, but I also saw that it worked. You know, it worked a little bit more. So
I feel like, and I'm not trying to cut you off, but I feel like this step right here is the one, right? Like just to just share a little bit, right? Like growing up in my dad's house.
Yeah.
I grew up seeing so, you know, 4 or 5 generations from slavery. My dad is one of the, you know, he was the oldest.
Yeah.
Very impoverished, lived in the projects. Being the oldest of 11 of them, couldn't, you know, when he went to graduate high school, he couldn't play basketball because he was taking care of the kids, right? So he pressed down a lot of those feelings. And so now he has me, his oldest, right, at 20. So now he's ready to be a dad, and he's an amazing dad. But now I get to grow up seeing him press down those feelings. So now who doesn't press down her feelings? Like I totally press down my feelings.
Takes you know what I'm saying? Know one. That's why we get along.
And so at some point in my life, and the reason why I keep harping on the second tool is because at some point in my life, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? Of myself acting that way.
Yes.
Because it was ruining relationships.
Yes.
Right? I could be cool on you like, okay, well, whatever, and move on to the next. But I really loved you.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So now I have to go through this mourning process because I can't figure out what this is, and I miss you. Yeah. But I can't go back to tell you that because I didn't gave you the middle finger.
We'd have to name that feeling to be able to do that. Yes.
So that's why I'm saying, like, you know, it's that piece right there. Like as humans, I feel like we don't like. I love that we're talking about it because a lot of times we don't talk about it either.
Right.
And that it's okay for us to feel the flip.
Absolutely.
Feel the flip because our bodies do tell us. So I'm just really hoping that you capacity builders out there, like, feel the flip.
Get in tune with our body because our body's talking to us. And then we do step 1, name the feeling.
Name it.
And then step 2 is say it's okay to have the feeling. And you have to say it like I said, I end up saying it like 3 times and I take a deep breath in between. We have to say it until we at least kind of believe it. You know what I mean? Like the first time I'll say it, I'm like, I'm feeling anxious. Like to me, because and I say it like that because to me, and it's not to me.
It's your personal walk.
Well, to me, having anxiety is a privilege. Do you know what I mean? When you're in survival mode, you ain't got time for anxiety. Now that ain't right. We're anxious all the time. You know what I mean? But we ain't got time. What really is true is we ain't got time to acknowledge it. Because you're in.
You got to go to the next thing.
Right. Yeah.
Next
boom.
thing.
So that's part of the reason when I'm like, it's okay to feel anxious. Like that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so. But and then I say it again and again until a part of me like lets it go. And I have to say after step 2, that's normally when I've said, yeah, it really is okay to be anxious. It's okay. It's not, you know, a privilege or uppity. It's just, it's okay. It's what's going on right now for me. So it's okay. Then it decompresses. Now, step 3, listeners, this is the big one, is why am I feeling this? And this is what I say is we want to pull back the layers of the onion. Now, human nature, the first time we say, why are we feeling this? We almost always go external. Well, I'm feeling anxious because Nita's doing this, or I'm feeling angry because my spouse did this, or I'm feeling that, it's because it's always because somebody else, and I respect it, but we can't stop there. Yeah. Step 3, you want to keep asking yourself why. So it's like, if in my head, I'm like, well, I'm feeling anxious because Nita was late today. She wasn't. That girl always on time. But if I say that, I would not end there. I won't go to step 4 because now I'll answer myself. Okay, Jody, Nita's been late before. Other people have been late before. Heck, you're the queen of being late. So why is this bringing you anxiousness? So I won't allow it to be anything external. So when we ask why we're having that feeling, I won't allow external because, again, I get to choose my feelings. So it's like, okay, well, Nita was late, but why did that bring up that feeling? And so now what happens is it starts to bring it towards me. Well, when she's late, I had to set up, and I don't feel confident in setting up. Oh, okay. See, now we're getting at the core here. So I had to do something I wasn't confident about. All right. So now I'm going to ask myself, okay, well, why did that bring anxiety? Jody, you do stuff, that you're not confident about. So why this time is it bringing up anxiety? Well, because I want the podcast to look good, and again, why? Well, because I was taught that if you're going to do something, you better do it well or don't do it at all. I mean, that my dad just,
Come on.
That my dad, there was some curse words in that and some casual register, but that is essentially the message. If you're going to do it, child, you better do it right or not do it at all.
Yes.
So I got that. And then, Nita's not here, so now I have to do it myself, and I might not do it well. And now we're getting to some of my core stuff. Oh, well, Jody, you don't do everything well. Oh, that's right. Oh, you know what? I think if I don't do this well, it's a reflection of me. And I gotta kind of recenter and go, wait up. I can, you know what? Not every podcast is going to be done well. And not everything is going to be great, and I'm still okay. So I take that feeling anxious and I ask why. Audience, no, 9 times out of 10, we're going to start external first, like it's somebody else or some reason. Keep asking and say, well, yeah, Anita going to be late. Other people have been late. Why does it bring up this feeling this time? Well, because then I had to actually set up the room and I'm not confident in it.
Wow.
So, okay, Jody, you're not confident in everything you do. Why did that bring you anxiety? Well, because I want this product to be good. Why is that so important to you that it's good? Well, because I was taught, and that almost became a value of or a measurement of my worth, is if you don't do something well, then you're not well. You know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, you know what? The lesson I was taught when I was young, if you're going to do a job, do it right or don't do it at all. That's a good lesson. But I have to detach it from my self-worth. And when I do that, then it's like, oh, okay, you know what? That's right. I don't have to have anxiety, And in the last step 4.
But wait, before you go into step 4.
Yeah.
Because
I saw her eyes. I'm like, okay, is she going to jump in? Cause she's thinking a lot of stuff.
So, doing this work, because I am your sister girl, we've been doing this together after I learned about, after we met and I read the book and shared it with my team. And so, because of our conversations, in the past, and really like this past week, the flip, right? Yep. Like that really touched my soul. I don't know if I heard it in a different way or if,
Now I'm going to let listeners know the flip is you're talking about when we talked about an episode before about what's your body telling you, when we check in with our body, because our body's often letting us know if we've been activated or if we've,
right.
So that's this flip.
That's the flip. So this morning, I had the situation where I'm standing in my kitchen and I'm with my loved one and we're talking and I woke up late. Okay. So I woke up late and in the moment I felt this angst and I was trying to figure out like, what is this angst? It was the flip, right? So I actually slowed down to listen to my body and just sit with it for a few seconds.
Hold it now. So you woke up late.
I woke up
late. Now
you're
in the kitchen.
Now I'm in the kitchen.
You're feeling angst. And what made you catch the angst was because you felt this flip first.
I felt the flip first.
There you go.
Right?
Body talked to you first.
My body talked to me. And so I said it to my loved one. I'm like, babe, I need to tell you this. Like, I'm feeling this angst that we need to go, like, right now. Like, you're talking and you're doing a little bit too much. And I'm ready to, like, you see, I got my clothes on.
Here's my casual register. You are dilly-dallying around. We got time for this.
Right.
Yes.
And I had to tell him that I apologize, because what he was doing for us was preparing our morning, right? So getting my smoothie, he does all the stuff for us. So my smoothie, my vitamins, you know what I'm saying? Like his stuff and his vitamins.
So he wasn't dilly-dallying. He was actually doing stuff for you guys.
He was literally doing that. But while he was doing it, he was talking. So when he talks, he stops. And then he goes back to it. So I'm like, okay, I'm paying attention, but we got to go. And we had just talked about having unconditional trust with our process in the morning, because we know what we're doing and we're waking up to get it done. And we had just checked each other's schedules. We didn't have any place to be. Right. Like,
so you kind of putting this on.
So I'm just layering it on. Right.
Yes.
And so when I sat and thought about this angst, because now I have time, because we just said we don't have any place to be. But I sat and I had to sit with, like, now I had to ask myself why. Right. So I named the feeling.
Yep.
I affirmed the feeling. Like he gave me the capacity to be able to.
Gave you the space.
Yeah. The space to just, like, affirm it. Like,
now, that's beautiful for listeners. Are we being like him? And so he didn't react to you. He gave you the space when you said, "Hey, I'm feeling this angst." That's beautiful. That's capacity. Cool. That's operating out of capacity, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then in that moment, I was able to then ask myself, "What is this feeling?"
So what'd you come up with?
So I came up with, I normally work out in the morning. I got up late, didn't work out, and then it was like, okay, so what did the workout have to do with it? Well, I'm used to getting up in the morning and getting to the office before everybody. Yep. And so it was like, okay, well, what is that? And then it was, okay, so if I get to the office before anybody, that means that the early bird catches the worm, right? So I'm, as a Black woman, I've been told a lot of my life that, like many of us in my generation, is that, you got to be twice as good as white folks, right? Yeah.
To get half as much. That's always the saying I heard. Yeah.
And so it was that. And so in that moment, I was given the opportunity to, because of the space given, was, no, that's not real. Like, that's not a real statement. And so, like you mentioned, I was able to detach that from me, right? Like, from my success, from how good I am at what I do. I felt in that moment like, no, I don't have to get to work before everybody. Right. And this morning in particular, I'm spending time with my boo. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm actually, this is what's most important. And it's what I preach to the kids that we serve, right? To my team that I serve, that family is definitely important. Right. So why am I not?
And being present.
Being present with them is, so.
But now I'm gonna correct one thing, because you said it's not real. And to me, go back to our tool of both and. To me, it's very real. So for listeners, when I hear you check me on any of this. For listeners, when you're telling your story, what I hear is, because we have a societal system that has normalized one identity over another. For example, male over female. Male is normalized dominant, female isn't. White is normalized of color. In this case, Black isn't. That gives two different experiences. Yes. And one of the experiences I hear you saying is, what I've been told and what I've experienced is, I have to show up twice as good to get half the recognition.
Right. Even than my boo. Right. Like, okay, you can be late. I can't.
Right.
Right. Like, while you taking your time talking.
Because your boo is a male, right. Which is a little different.
Exactly.
Right? And so that's real. Like, because and what is also real is that we can choose to say, yep, what I've experienced in the societal system is real, this normalized, dominant, and those messages are real, and I am also an individual person that lives, within this societal system, but I don't always have to live of it. I don't have to be of it. You know what I mean?
I'm in it, but not of it.
Right. I'm in it, but I'm not of it. And I can name this anxiety, and I can process it and understand where it comes from. Yeah. But then and then that step 4, I can choose
what you want
to do. Yes. And so because I want to make sure as listeners, if we want to build capacity, we don't want to get in conflict with ourselves or friction. We don't want to be like, oh, well, your experience is very real. I mean, that you have to be twice as good to get half as that goes right back to this book. I keep going here because that goes back to, if we didn't grow up in a societal system that didn't normalize one identity, and another, then there could be different experiences. But because that is the way it is, what you experience is very real. And it is very real to say, and I'm not going to operate out of that. Yeah. I'm going to be of myself and of the power which I have of myself.
Exactly. Thank you for catching that. Yeah. Because it has been a very real moment this morning and throughout the day, me just sitting with that. Right. And being okay. Like you said, I'm still telling myself that it was okay.
Absolutely. Right. Because it doesn't feel okay.
Yeah. It hasn't totally settled into my body. Right. But it is. Yeah. Right.
And so this is step 4 then. Once step 1, name the feeling. Step 2, give yourself permission to have the feeling. It's okay to feel that way. And then step 3, when you say, okay, why did I have that feeling? And I love that you peeled the onion back that much, that it wasn't, that you said, okay, well, I was late, so that brought me anxiety, but you didn't stop there. And then you're like, okay, well, why is that so important to me?
Because it wasn't him.
Exactly. It wasn't him. Yeah, it wasn't, because again, you could have went external. You could have, why am I feeling this way? Well, because he keeps talking and he stops when he talks and it's making us later, right? But you didn't stop there, right? Then you went to, you know what I mean? Then you processed it more internally. Yeah. Well, like the early bird gets the worm, but I like that you took it a level further and you were like, well, wait a second, I was taught these things that you have to be twice as good. So in this moment, because I'm a little behind, I'm feeling like I cannot be twice as good. Like, I'm gonna be a loser. Right.
Like, oh my gosh, I'm losing today.
Right. And that message is coming from the societal system, not from who you are.
Exactly.
And so then step 4 is we choose, you put it all together. So in step 4, you put the whole sentence together with the end of the sentence being your choice.
Closing the loop.
Right. So if I'm going to use Nita's example, I'd say, I feel anxiety. It is okay to feel anxious. I feel anxious because I live in a societal system that has definitely taught me that I should be twice as good to get, something in the societal system. And I know that that's within the societal system. But for me, I'm going to choose, and then you name it. I'm going to choose to live out of, my self-love or my self-worth.
And that's what I chose. After deciding that, I said to myself, no, I'm a winner chicken dinner no matter what. Like, if I get there late or early, yes, you are. I'm winning.
Yes. So it's a chicken dinner with waffles by it. Yes. Yes. Now, that's an insightful and a very beautiful step 4 that you did.
Thank you. It brought me to tears today. I ain't gonna lie. Like that. I was sitting with tears today for that.
I just want all the audience members know that sometimes it doesn't look as insightful and as graceful as Nita just did. But so, like, I'll be honest, sometimes when I process, step 3, if I can't process it very far, like, well, I'm upset because so-and-so did that. And then I'm like, okay, it's not about them. It's about what does that trigger for me? And I really can't go there yet. I'll jump to step 4 and I'll go, look, I'm angry. It's okay to feel angry. I'm angry because right now it's just because those folks did that. And I know that isn't it. I know it's triggering something for me, but I'm not ready to deal with it. So I'm going to choose. And then sometimes I'm like, I'm going to choose to just go home and veg out because I need to have veg, or I'm going to choose pizza, or I'm going to choose, to come back to it. So sometimes our choice isn't always, quote unquote, the most healthy or the most insightful, but the difference is that I'm conscious and I'm choosing it. Yes. So if I have noticed, like, things like this, if I'm like, look, I'm choosing to go home and eat pizza because I'm not ready to deal with this. Then when I go home and I eat pizza, I don't eat as much because it doesn't even feel as good because I just brought
I want to get back to it,
because it's like, oh, I'm aware of why I'm doing this. I'm trying to numb myself. And then all of a sudden it doesn't work quite as well. I mean, it still works. I eat 2 pieces, but not as much as it used to. You know what I'm saying? So realize that sometimes we do these 4 steps and we can get to a core hurt and we can really come up with step 4, a profound choice that's really a healthy choice. And then there's sometimes we go through these 4 steps and I can only go surface level at each step. And so, you know what? Step 4 is no. Right now I'm about numbing myself. Yep. Sometimes I use food to numb myself. Sometimes I, want to just play card games with the family or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just zone out on something different.
Right. Right. But that practicing those steps, it's okay if we're going deep on all the steps, and it's okay if we're just kind of going, I hate to say surface level, but not as deep or profound.
I love the way you just took a breath, because you had a lot to say there.
I know. I went fast again.
No, you weren't even fast.
Okay.
It was just so deep. You know what I'm saying? And you were so passionate about it. I love seeing when you're in that space.
Now the next thing I want to bring up, but I want to make sure we don't do this too soon, because when we get a good tool, I don't know about you, but I have to catch myself. I want to use it on other people right away. And everybody knows if somebody shares a tool with me, and that's what Nita, I think you and I do really well, is like if Nita reads something or she has something that she practices in her life, she'll share it with me. Like, girl, when I did my practice of this is what happened today, or whatever. It's a sharing with, and I can receive that. But if Nita were to say, girl, you need to do this, if she were to take the tool, she uses it and put it on top of me, it kind of smothers me out, and I'm oppositional defiant. So it ain't going to happen now. Right? You tell me, you want me not to do something, just say I should, right? You should. Okay. Not going to happen. It's a wrap. Oh, sounds like it's a beautiful idea, but not going to happen. So when I say that you can start to share this, when you practice this 4-step tool, I use this in my work life when I have, if I have a student come in, or if I have someone on a caseload come in, or a coworker. But when someone's really upset, I will just listen, and I'll kind of do step 1 and 2 with them. So I've had people come in hot, like swearing, cursing, you guys don't listen, and da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, hey, sir, I hear you. It is freaking frustrating when the people who are getting paid, don't even feel like we're listening. And so what did I just do? Because you can't ask this man, so how are you feeling? This man is making it very clear how he feels, right? He came in, big arms, big gestures, couple curse words.
He came in big.
Yeah, So, but I'll do number 1 and 2 with them. And so what I'm doing is I'll name the feelings. I won't pair it as words, but I'll name the feelings, and I'll say it's okay to have them. Yes. And I won't say it's okay to have them, but I put it in a affirmative way. I'm like, oh man, you dang right, sir. When it feels like people don't listen to you, especially us, because we're sitting here and we're getting paid to listen, and it feels like we're not listening to you, that's freaking infuriating. Now what happens is when you do that with sincerity, step 1 and 2, people tend to, they have one more. They tend to have one, like, yeah, the dang right. And another thing you guys do. And then I have to do it again and say, yes, sir. When we act like we know more about your children than you do, that's angering. I mean, that's disrespectful. And when I do that with sincerity, the second time, almost always people come down. People come down, they're like, oh, okay. And then I can say, can we talk about it? Because I definitely do not want to cause anger and frustration, and it's obvious that we have. So would you like a water? Would you like a pop? You want to take a minute, or would you like to come and talk? And so I don't do 3 and 4. I mean, when we talk, 3 and 4 sometimes 3 kind of reveals themselves. Like, but I'm not my job to process why he's feeling that way. No. It's my job now to understand what we did. So step 3 is now about us as an institution. Like, what did we do? Where didn't we listen to him? Where did we? Where can we do better? Yeah. And then I do kind of end in step 4 though. Is I'll say, sir, so I thank you for coming in and expressing your anger and frustration. As I said, I apologize. That wasn't our intent, but I heard where when we did this and this and this, it contributed to it. So moving forward, I'm going to talk to my staff about this, and I'm going to relook at how I do it. And then moving forward, if you get frustrated again, would you be willing to just come in and talk to me? I don't mind some of the curse words, but there were a couple extra in there we didn't need. I'll make a joke out of something. But I also, and I'm not saying that you have to be calm to bring me your complaint, because when you get activated, people can't be calm. Right. But I also going to let him know there's a certain level of respect. I am here, I am listening. You just experienced that. Yeah. So the next time you bring it in, you can bring it down a notch. We ain't got to take it all the way up, and use quite as many. So it's also.
But what I heard you say was, in the step 4, you owned your stuff.
Absolutely.
Right. It still wasn't about him.
Right.
You stayed in that space of owning your stuff. So that way he could then think about his stuff.
Now Anita's right on. So that's let me make that clear when we role model this and kind of use this with other folks, we don't do step 3 because we can't,
that's their work.
That's their work. I can't say, well, sir, why are you feeling this way? So, and then I get hit right there, So, but I can role model and say, you know what, sir, I realized when we did that, I can do step 3 in front of them. I realized when we as an organization did this, this, and this, how it could result in frustration and anger. And so now, and then I can do step 4. And so as an organization, here's what I'm going to do. And so then once he sees that, then I can make the request. And I hope you've experienced that I am here to listen. So the next time we do frustrate you, because it might happen again, you can come in and talk to me. I don't mind when people are upset, but you had a couple extra curse words we could have left out. I make a joke about it, and people are like, yeah, I'm sorry about that. And a lot of times people will be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I said, no, I get it. You were frustrated, but now that we got more of a rapport, hopefully we don't have to go there again. But I just role modeled, and he can go back and think about if he wants to process that step 3.
Yeah.
But what this does is we're not being controlled by our emotions. And now here's the big statement. If you and I want to increase our capacity, show up so we can really hold space, then we have to own our feelings and process them. Okay, so we have to process our feelings. If we don't acknowledge our feelings, if we don't process our feelings, we're acting out of them. That limits our capacity. And so I like what you said with your boo. If he was operating at a limited capacity, he would have got activated. When you said you were having angst, he'd be like, well, come on, I'm sitting here doing the smoothies, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, that's not enough for you. And boom, boom, boom.
We would have been broken up.
Yeah. But you know how fast that so when one person doesn't hold space and acts out of their feelings, like if he would have heard that you have anxiety, you're feeling anxious as a criticism, then he would have been like, well, I'm doing all this stuff for us, and then within moments it escalates. But the fact that he showed up definitely with capacity and said, okay, babe, let's process this, and allowed you to process it. And then when we process it, you have amazing, rich conversations, and we show up with more capacity. So that's why this episode was dedicated to one tool, because this tool is so important. We got to get in touch with our body. We got to start to realize we're having feelings, got to hit that pause button, and then go through these 4 steps. Name the feeling, say it's okay to have the feeling, start to process why, what is that about? Don't just go external with why we're feeling the way we are. What's it activating for us? And then 4, put it all together. It's okay to I'm having a feeling, it's okay. And sometimes it's like we'll have a whole very healthy and deep choice that we're going to make at the end of step 4. And sometimes it's like, and I'm not ready to go there yet. And that's okay too, right?
Absolutely.
Or I'm not ready to go there, and I'm going to do something to numb myself right now because this was too much. And that's okay. It's okay.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, today,
girl,
I'm telling you, I'm walking away definitely feeling that I closed the loop on this one.
That's beautiful.
Not that I won't continue to work on it, but
always.
I have an answer for why,
Yes.
So thank you so much, Jody, for, providing our capacity builders the opportunity to understand this tool. We look forward to you all using this tool, because this is what we're doing, y'all. Yeah. And I'm gonna go ahead and close this out if that's cool.
Well, and I'm gonna say too, hopefully users, we can use this tool. I love that you shared a personal example, because we can use this in our relationships. And then I used a work example. We can use this in our work that we do. So the more we use this, the more we increase our capacity, the different places in life that we can absolutely use this.
Well, there it is.
There you go. Go close this out, girl.
There it is. Close this out. So y'all, this is us, as Jody just said, building capacity, right? Building capacity within ourselves, within our communities, and within our institutions. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to hang with us, and we appreciate you. And guess what? We'll see you on the next one.